The final piece I'm going to teach you about is the pawn. I saved the pawn for last because I think it's the hardest piece to understand how to move. At the beginning of the game, a pawn can either move one square or two squares. Many chess players start off a chess game by moving the e-pawn, the one that's in front of the king, up two squares. I'm going to have black also move a pawn up two squares, and here you'll notice that the two pawns are facing each other. When this happens and you have two pawns next to each other, neither one of those pawns can move. They're kind of stuck in that place until something else possibly happens. So again, if you have two pawns that are head-to-head like this, they cannot capture each other. They can't jump over one another. They're stuck there, just staring at each other. For the next move, I'm just going to move the d pawn up one. And again, when the pawns are at the bottom, right here, they can move either one square or two squares on that very first move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move black's pawn up two squares. Now here's something that's kind of interesting about the pawns. If you notice, I've got the white pawn here, and there's a black pawn diagonal. This is where pawns can capture other pawns or other pieces in a chess game by moving diagonally. So in this position, I can take the white pawn and capture the black pawn like that. So let's say that the black pawn moves up one there. White can capture again. But then black, you'll notice, is diagonal to the white pawn. So the black pawn can now capture white's pawn. And after you've moved a chess piece once, then it can only move one square.
Students for bus 29 are now dismissed. Bus 29 is dismissed.
Sorry about that. So since these pieces are here on the bottom, they can move up two squares. But since this black pawn right here has already moved once, it can only move one square. And now you can see we have two pawns who are head-to-head, so neither one of these pawns can move forward. I'll move this pawn up one. Oh, wait a minute. It must not be that move. We'll say it is white's move. It was white's move. And we'll have black move here. And I am going to do something a little bit different with these pieces to show you one other rule about chess. Let's say that this pawn moves up one and this pawn takes it. If you look, both of these pawns have an open road to the other side of the board. And if those pawns can reach the other side of the board without being captured, they can turn into any piece they want to become. So I'm going to make these two pieces go one square at a time to the opposite ends of the board. And when it gets to the other end of the board, you can turn it into any piece you want. Most chess players will choose a queen for their piece. But if I try to take this pawn and move it here, there's a whistle. Do you know why? Well, if you said that the queen has the king in check, you are exactly right. And if you remember, a check is when you are attacking a piece, is when you're attacking the king and can capture it on the next move. So the white king has to move out of the way. White queen will check the king again. So the king has to move out of the way. We're going to check the king again right here. Remember, pawns can capture diagonally. So the king has to move another time right here. Well now, I suppose there's more ways that, that black could check white. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have black move a pawn there. And I'm going to get white to the other side so white can promote a piece. And here, white is checking the black king. So now the king has to move out of the way. So, to review all the different moves about pawns, when pawns are on the bottom row, and that's called a rank.
36 are now dismissed. 36.
This is called a rank. And so when the pawns are on the rank, they can move up two squares. But after they've had a chance to move up two squares, then they can only move up 1 square. Pawns capture by moving diagonally to take the pieces off the board. And if you can get a piece to the other side of the board, then you can turn it into any piece that you want it to become. Oops. And once you get those pieces to the other side, you can pick any piece that you want to, like that. And so pawns can also be very powerful.